All right, well,
All
let's
right.
get started.
Yeah, we'll get started. So, Michelle, this is the way it operates. I know we practiced the other night, so uh, you'll have uh, around 25 to 30 minutes for a presentation, and then we'll go into asking questions. That'll be from each committee member, and then once you answer all our questions, then we'll put you in a waiting room and we'll decide about moving forward. And then we'll bring you back in and let you know how it all went.
All right.
If
Well,
you're ready,
thank you, everybody.
we're gonna turn it over. But I want to say thank you for the committee for getting Michelle to this point for sure. Uh,
Yes,
wouldn't be able to happen without y'all. So thank y'all.
absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. All right. Well, my name is Michelle Mendeville. I am here to do my proposal, my proposal defense, and my topic. It is adults' perception of the influence of wearable fitness devices on psychological well-being and motivation to engage in physical activities. A little background in the gap. So we all know that lack of motivation impacts psychological well-being in adults today. Motivation influences social conduct. It does stimulate competition and social interaction. When it is absent, this can cause mental disorders like depression. Um, a, a research conducted by Sweet 2021 study how the COVID-19 lockdown and the participants' lack of activity alter their mental health, where individuals had high elevated levels of stress, anxiety, and despair. A study conducted by 2021, which was also a dissertation that was published in 2021, also studied along the lines of what I am studying here. And what Nuss did was she used the self-determination theory for her study and found that participant participation in moderate to vigorous physical activity is associated with a more autonomous form of motivation. In this particular study, she also incorporated wearable fitness devices, and she found that these promoted self-motivation of physical activity, which had a potential to improve physical activity for her participants. So this one, NAS 2021, was the only study that incorporated both physical activity and wearable fitness devices. I didn't find that much more literature where both were incorporated. And then a study here by CFAT 2022, a study that found that university students would utilize various methods of digital health platforms for mental health promotion. And so with all these studies that I chose, there is quite a gap in understanding how the literature impacts and overall my study here that I would like to study, right? So how adults 18 years of age and older who wear fitness devices describe the influence of wearable fitness devices on psychological well-being and motivation to engage in physical activities. So most of them talk about physical activities, but there isn't much literature for me to dig in to understand if in fact wearable fitness devices do promote or not promote, the activity levels on adults. As far as my problem statement goes, it is not known how adults 18 years of age and older describe the influence of wearable fitness devices on psychological well-being and motivation to engage in physical activities. The purpose statements of this qualitative descriptive study is to explore how adults 18 years of age and older describe the influence of wearable fitness devices on psychological well-being and motivation to engage in physical activities in the West Coast region of the US. As far as the theoretical conceptual framework, I will be utilizing the self-determination theory. And I'm really going to be focusing on the competence, autonomy, and the relatedness by concentrating on the degree of motivation experienced by participants while wearing fitness devices. The three essential needs just mentioned will be applied to the study. The various methods of self-determination will be utilized to frame the research questions for this qualitative study. And as I mentioned, it is a qualitative study. And the reason for it being selected as a qualitative study is because it emphasizes subjectivity and concentrate on language, meanings, and addressing the what and the how, and pretty much inquiries and making them suitable for examining human behavior. That's the reason of choosing qualitative. The phenomenon to be explored is how adults 18 years of age and older describe the influence of wearable fitness devices on psychological well-being and motivation to engage in physical activities. The two research questions here are, how do adults 18 years of age and older describe the influence of wearable fitness devices on their psychological well-being? And the RQ2 is, how do adults 18 years of age and older describe the influence of wearable fitness devices on their motivation to engage in physical activities? The population and sample. So the population is all adults in the West Coast region of the US. The target population is adults 18 years of age and older in the West Coast region of the US that own a wearable fitness device. The sample size is 20 individuals from the target population. Those 20 individuals will be involved in interviews, and each focus group will have about 6 individuals. Here we go. Convenient sampling will be used for this study through social media, using Facebook groups to gather the participants. The rationale for using convenient sampling, it is that it allows the research to gain access to participants who may be difficult to reach with other methods. The participants will be able to self-enroll in the study. So plan A will entail posting an electronic flyer, recruitment letter on social media. I do list here the 3 social media groups that I will be using. Describing the study and the requirements to participate. The inclusion criteria will be that they have to be 18 years of age and older, live in the West Coast region of the US, and then own a wearable fitness device. Interested participants will self-select if they meet the criteria for the study. Once they do enroll, they will be asked to participate in the study, and then informed consent will be given to them. The participants will have to sign it and return the informed consent via email to schedule the interview. Demographic questions will be asked to be completed as well. If the researcher is not able to meet the participant count, the research will execute recruitment plan B, which is also convenient sampling, but expanding to other social media groups such as LinkedIn. If the researcher is still not able to meet the participant count, then we'll go into recruitment plan C, which is snowball sampling, which in a sense is asking those participants that are already enrolled to identify potential subjects that could join the study. Ethical concerns. This proposed study will adhere to the Valmont Report principles of respect, justice, and benefits in the study design and sampling, the procedures, the research problem, and the research questions, and the planned data dissemination procedures. As far as data sources goes, as I mentioned, the research will be administering self-structured interviews, and then the data source tool will be focus groups. Here are some of the instruments that were created by the researcher based on the theoretical framework and the RQs. So some of the questions here are, how has tracking your physical activity with the wearable fitness device impacted your mood and mental health? Another one here is, what were your initial motivations for using a wearable fitness device? Please share those thoughts. And again, these are the RQ questions. And then the focus group questions as well are here. So how do you think using a wearable fitness device has influenced your overall mood and mental well-being? Another question here is, can you describe a specific instance where your wearable fitness device helped you overcome a motivational barrier to exercise? Data collections and procedures, obtain IRB approval from GCU, obtain GCU site approval from the specific Facebook social media groups. And then, of course, participants will receive dates and time to determine the appropriate Zoom team meeting, and when we'll host the informational meeting. And then the 3 recruitment plans that have been developed will support the researcher in getting the design number of participants. All right, data collection procedures. Participants will be given the informed consent. The researchers will review the purpose of the study, made aware of the confidentiality of their contributions and the right to discontinue the study at any time without repercussions. Interview questions, the research will ask each questions, and participants will have the option to respond to each question to the best of their ability. As far as the semi-structured interview and focus groups, the researcher will select 20 adults for the interview and the semi-structured questions on a volunteer basis. Each interview questions will relate back to the problem and the 2 research questions. We'll start the recording and inform the participants that are being recorded. The research will follow interview protocols, explain the purpose of the interview, and introduce herself. And then complete the interview by requesting additional thoughts and then turn off the recording. The data obtained from the semi-structured interviews and the focus groups will be analyzed following the Brown and Clark thematic analysis and the 6-step approach, right, of familiarizing with the data, code the data, search for the patterns and themes, review the themes, define and name themes, and then write up the report. Some of the areas that AQR did, they gave me a laundry list of things that I need to improve on. But these are 2 areas that I put on the presentation here. There was a request to change from case study, since I addressed case study on the beginning of chapter 3, when if in fact it's qualitative descriptive study. When we first started the dissertation proposal writing, we were kind of battling between case study and descriptive study, so we chose descriptive study. And then another area that they would like me to change is starting with the Western US and Midwest focus at the start of chapter 3. And then in fact, I am only focusing on the West Coast region. Through my dissertation meetings that we had back in Arizona, we were kind of scaling down the criteria. Instead of being too broad, we wanted to be smaller. So we decided just to focus on the West Coast region and not include Midwest or other areas. And that is all I had. And of course, these are all my references.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, at this point, we're going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
And I just asked now, you said there was a laundry list. Now, when you say laundry list that AQR had, but it wasn't anything major. I think, what was the, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken?
It was just minor, yeah, minor
minor
editing, yeah, just minor editing.
Some of like the
things.
alignment, kind of like you had the West Coast, but in your purpose statement, it somewhere it said you was going to do a case study.
Yes.
And you're not doing a case study, but I think all the changes that was made, that some things just kind of got missed. Is that
right? That is true. There was nothing major with alignment or anything of that nature. It was more typos here and there where, I would have addressed, like in this scenario, that we were going to do a case study, and then I forgot to update it in chapter 3, but then all throughout it does show qualitative study. So I just missed one word in a specific area of the chapter. So I do need to go back and review all the details from AQR and make the corresponding updates to the actual proposal document.
Okay. Now you said something about having a meeting on your data collection. Just real quick, I was said something about having the informational meeting beforehand.
Oh yes, so I did do. Let's see, where did I put it? I did do field testing for my research questions. I did two field testings. I didn't necessarily include them in here, but I did two field testings, both for about 45 minutes and included quite a number of codes and just feedback in general from both participants, where they allow me to enhance my interview questions to be more descriptive to the goal of my study. Both participants were extremely engaged and they provided amazing feedback as it relates to really having them understand what I'm trying to get to with all my questions. And so they allowed me to include additional detail on my questions that will help me nail down corresponding things associated to motivation and how those fitness devices truly could impact or not impact, their engagement to do physical activities. One of the participants mentioned that at the beginning of the study, it was more what does your device do and not do? And so their comments was, where are you trying to understand what the capabilities are of those devices, Michelle? Or are you trying to tell me, do those devices really help me engage or find motivation within myself when I take a look at my watch and it's telling me to go on a walk? Or are you more focused on knowing, is this a techie device that is going to help me, do more things or not do more things, in other words? So the feedback from the field testing was amazing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kimball at this time and let him have his questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle. It's funny because I'm sitting here, both my wife and I do a lot of online teaching, as you know, and we're looking at our watches like we don't have our 5 miles in yet today. So psychologically, I've only got a mile and a half of walking so far today, and when we had the conversation a couple of years ago there, residency in Phoenix, I was like, I love this topic because I think that especially as we get a little older, we end up I know I do. I end up sitting a lot, grading papers and all this type of stuff. So, with the age group that you chose, why did you choose that particular age group? Just curious if there was a need for that age group.
Based on what the studies that I did, most of them were everybody was 18 years of age. And at least from those studies, nobody really referenced folks younger than 18 years of age.
Mhm.
Just from what I've seen, right, in high school and things like that, kids do utilize watches, but it doesn't sound like they utilize them a lot for what its purpose possibly may be, which is they use it more for a tech and a trend purpose, in my opinion, versus
Gotcha.
utilizing it for what the tools are for. So
Gotcha.
the studies primarily focus adults. And so I also didn't want to get parental consent to interview kids. I'd rather keep it within the adult framework.
Gotcha. My other question was regarding your field testing. Tell us what you learned, just
Mhm.
briefly, what you learned from doing the field testing. And did you
Yeah,
also say you did the expert panel or no?
no expert panel, just field testing.
Okay. And
Yeah.
tell us what you learned from that, just having that practice.
Yeah, it was really great. It truly made me realize that I want to get to that phase already of interviewing folks because when you're doing your proposal and you're doing your dissertation paper, your head's down, understanding how to be a great researcher and putting all this great documentation together, how you're going to develop your research, right? And when I did those field testings, it just made me understand, like, I am actually really passionate about this. I really want to know more and understand what kind of data code and sets I'm going to get out of the research data that I do to really know, what the findings are going to be for my research study, right? Because we all have, to a certain extent, understanding of what watches may or may not do, right? And based on the studies, a lot of folks did say they do enhance physical activity, but I really want to know, does it really enhance our physical activity? Or again, just like the high school kids that I know, they're just using it as a trend, right? That it's cool to have a watch. I really want to know that. Like, is it really something that is worth having as an adult, that something that was wearable is going to push us, to be more active or not? And so
Okay.
just having those two interviews just really helped me overall understand what it will look like interviewing 20 folks. And then of course it also helped me make my research questions much better and my interview questions much better to be more aligned with what I'm trying to study here.
Great, thank you. My last question in 30 seconds or less, so keep that in mind, 30 seconds or less. Who's going to be the most interested in your study and why?
Um, After the results are posted, you think?
Right,
Is
when
that sort of
you're
the question?
completed, when you're finished, yeah. Who will be most
Yeah,
interested in one?
I would think really folks that are active or possibly not active to know if they really should do or buy a watch, right? Folks that are not that active that possibly would like to find motivation to be engaged, those are the folks that probably will want to read my study. And in addition, I would say possibly vendors, right? Like your iWatch, Apple folks, possibly, Garmin, of those of that, vendors that do have wearable fitness devices
Okay.
out there. Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. That's all I have, Dr.
Of course.
Quinn.
Thank you, Dr. Kimball. Was some good questions that were. Dr. Glenn, it's at this time, can you ask your questions?
I have a couple. Yeah. Nice job, Michelle.
Thank
Great,
you.
really interesting study. I'm gonna kind of like Dr. Kimball. I lead a somewhat sedentary life. And I have all kinds of fitness. I got my iWatch here. I got it. I got a bunch of wearable devices, Fitbit, etc., that I use, which I try to exercise daily. Not always easier said than done. All that said, I'm just curious, what does the literature say? You've done a lot of reading on this topic.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
does wearing a wearable fitness device actually improve psychological well-being and motivation to exercise?
Yeah. So the data and a lot of the research that I addressed earlier, right? Like for the most part, people will just throw it in there to say, oh yeah, it helps. And really the only study that I saw, which was by NUS 2021, is the only study that combined both to the level of understanding, does it really improve psychological well-being? And does it push us to be active? So really only this study so far that I did through the many months that I try to combine my my literature is the only study that has combined them both. There are studies where it talks about adults in general being active and how it helps us not be depressed and be a little bit brighter and better and think better. But there isn't much literature out there that actually combines them both. And that's truly what I am trying to find here. Does it really improve us or not? Or again, is it just a trend that folks like to have a night watch to look cool and active per se?
Yeah, it seems that would lends itself to a quantitative study in many ways, because how do you measure psychological well-being, for example, without an instrument
Sure,
of some kind?
sure.
And also, uh, yeah, you could measure time spent easily. So I mean,
Yeah.
just a thought for future studies you might want to consider,
Sure,
or
sure.
recommendations for future research that have been
Yeah,
done.
that would be a great recommendation. I really want to understand the folks' perspective on things, right? I don't want to get too much into details of data and time and things of that nature. I really want to know how the participants feel about that and just understand their point of views. But that's a great point that I'll mark, for maybe a future study to be done in quantitative.
So I forget, did you have a table of your field test results?
I do.
And
I did not put it in here, but I can grab it really quick.
no, it's not necessary. I'm
Oh,
just,
okay. Okay.
but it's in your chapter 3.
Yeah, it's in the chapter 3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it's in there.
And how long were the interviews approximately?
One was about 45, the other one was about 60 minutes.
Uh-huh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
number of pages?
I don't recall top of
transcript?
my head, but I do have it noted in the actual proposal dissertation. I can
Yeah,
find it for
okay.
you if you like, but
No,
it
it's
was quite
okay.
long. It was quite long. I did record him, of course, and then I used the program to then do the description of all the data. And it was a handful of pages for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My last question for you, Michelle, your choice of self-determination theory, why
Mhm.
did you choose that particular theory?
Yeah, so really because along of the lines of these three areas, right? How competence, people need to gain mastery of control of their own lives and their environment, right? For essential wellness. But then there's also level of self self-starting and self-doing things where it's
Mhm.
within the person that needs to do it, right? And
Okay.
then relatedness, which is if we are in a social setting and I am sharing my data from my wearable fitness device with my buddy, that's also going to help me per se be motivated or not. So really self-determination, when you look at it in that manner of those three branches, it allows me to piggyback to all three areas depending on what the participants, points of view are.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all I have, Michelle. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Good job with answering the questions also.
Thank you.
At this time, Michelle, I'm gonna uh, put you in the waiting room, and then we'll call you back out, or I'll bring you back in,
Okay.
when we get through. So I gotta remember
Thank
you
you.
got devices here, so I need to put both.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm gonna put both devices to put, in the waiting room,
Okay.
and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, I think I got her in the waiting room. We'll stop the recording.